Okay, I want to call this meeting of the Public Facilities District to order. And I'd like to apologize to those online and to those in the audience for the delay in beginning this meeting. First, we go to public comment. Is there any public comment? You should limit your comments, if you have any, to 3 minutes, please.
I have nothing in the chat box.
I can't see. Is anybody in Zoom want to?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, nobody in the chat box right here.
Okay. Hearing no one, we will move on to approval of the consent agenda. Board members, you have 4 items on the consent agenda that you can see on your copies. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, Kelly.
I'll motion to approve it.
And I'll second.
So we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion on the items of the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, please respond by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on down the agenda to item number 4, the facility progress report. We have the City of Port Orchard to give us an update on their community events center. Mayor, we'll turn it over to you.
And I have Dean Kelly, principal from Rice Fergus Miller, here with me tonight too, and he'll talk to you for the second half of this presentation. So this evening's presentation was given last week at our Port Orchard City Council meeting, and so I'm recycling that report, but it's pretty good stuff in here. So Russ, if you could flip to the next page. And I don't think this is a new slide to you. This is our sub-area plan, and it hasn't really changed. It's still the community center. The Kitsap Bank is the purple, and then the mixed use and parking garage is still across the street. And I'm going to talk, at least in my part, about some of the elements and pieces that are going on around the community event center. So go ahead, Russ. Just a little bit of statement about our goals for this sub-area plan, to continue to create a place downtown that is a community destination that's accessible and highly inviting for pedestrians for daily activities. You can go to the next. So these are all the different elements that we have going on. We're, starting top of the page and going down on the left, we've got the Shoreline Restoration that we were applying for an RCO grant currently to fund that. We've got the Community Event Center that you're intimately aware of. We're going to rebuild Port Street. We're rebuilding Bay Street, and due to sea level rise, we intend to raise the entire street 1.5 feet. The property around the community center is that we've, as you know, we've purchased at the end of the year. We closed on the bank's building, and that it sits higher. We already have flooding at high tides and king tide events on Bay Street, and so we don't want to build all these fabulous new buildings and still have flooding on Bay Street. So our goal our plan is to rebuild Bay Street. And I just was notified last week. We pursued a federal appropriation for the design of Bay Street, and I was notified last week that we got $1 million for that design. It's about a $4.5 million project, and we're pursuing construction funding in the regional countywide called Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council is the countywide agency that does out the federal transportation dollars, and we're pursuing $2.2 million of the, and it would leave another $1 million on local dollars to rebuild Bay Street. We have the proposed development across the street, and then we're going to add on to our existing pedestrian path headed this direction to the community center. We're going to have, where the parking lot there is, currently it's all parking lot. We're going to reduce that parking by about 50% and create open space and short-term parking there. This fall, we will be going to bid on the Marina pump station project. All the sewer in the city travels to this point in the city and then travels from here to the Marina pump station via force main. It's a $15 million project that we'll break ground on, I believe, shortly after the first of the year, and that's we've got funding in place for that project. So that'll be the first of a number of construction projects. The bank should be under construction next year is the goal. When we're about halfway done with the Marina pump station, and then we'll be right on the bank's heels. So I think there's going to be about 4 or 5 years of construction in this quadrant of downtown starting this fall. Got the bank project, and then the Orchard Street Plaza, and that right now is a street that and the parking lot where the bank is, and that we're planning on that being the destination for our farmers markets and festivals in a pedestrian plaza there. And then the utilities in Bay Street, we intend to underground the power lines, and all of the sewer and water lines in this area are nearly 100 years, if not older, and need to be upgraded to facilitate these projects. So go ahead, Russ. Just another site layout without all the lines on it. And you can go to the next slide, Russ. And this is just the patchwork of ownership. I just want to, you can see the port owns 2 of the, traveling along the waterfront. We've purchased the community event center site, but on the 2 sides of us are port properties. And then we've got the Orchard Street Plaza, the Kitsap Bank's site. And then what we're referring to is the Bay Street, its area of potential effect. That's all. Bay Street is a state highway, and then we've got our city streets. So these are the different ownerships, and there's a lot of coordination meetings going on between us, the port, the bank. Everybody's got an engineer and everybody's got a designer. John participates in some of those meetings, and we have 2 or 3 meetings a month trying to coordinate all these projects so they can come, because the port is doing a breakwater project and they have shoreline restoration requirements. We're wanting to do shoreline restoration, and we want it to look, like it is meant to be together, and versus 3 separate projects is the goal. So you can go to the next slide. And these are just some concepts and ideas that could potentially become part of our plaza and open space and shoreline restoration. And if you can go to the next slide, I'll show you some. Tough to see this, but this is in your packet. Just some of the elements that we're considering, from cafe seating to pop-up retail, a small stage, and some of the things that we're considering to be in this Orchard Street Plaza and around the community center. And then at one point we talked about a dock and beach access, and as we dove into this, Bay Street is where the beach was at one time, and this is all fill. It's not viable for us. Low tide is still, you still can't get to the beach. So even if we carve this back 10 or 15 feet and take the armoring off, we're not going to really create a location with beach access. It does exist right around the corner from this at the boat launch, which is a great place to launch a kayak. But we want to create an opportunity to get close to or touch the water. So we're likely going to see some sort of a viewing platform, or it's also difficult to permit things that go out over the water and provide shading. So we got to be conscious of that too, and be realistic in our goals. So I think the next slide takes us to Dean and his body of work.
Hello, everybody. As Mayor Rob mentioned, I'm Dean Kelly with Rice Fergus Miller. I'm a principal at RFM, and with Steve Rice's retirement at the end of the year, I'm now the principal in charge on this project. So just wanted to give you an update on a few things that we've been looking at, primarily around bringing better activation to Bay Street in particular. So this is the schematic design plan that we landed at the end of our schematic design process. And it's not a huge change, but I want to point you to kind of the bottom left hand of this image where we have a service core. So basically with Port Street on the left-hand side of this page, that's really where in the design and programming of the Community Event Center, we're really bringing things in to support events. So we've got storage space, we've got area for loading and unloading to happen, basically all of the kind of the nuts and the bolts that need to support those events to keep all of that traffic and congestion out of the main focus, which is the Orchard Plaza. But in doing that, you know, we've really not given us an opportunity to activate Bay Street, which runs along the bottom half of this page. So right now, if we're just thinking about Bay Street, we have the main entry off of Orchard Plaza into the Community Event Center there on the right-hand side of the page. And then a few little things. There was an idea of kind of a walk-up kiosk area kind of in the middle of the plan, and then a teen space that kind of jutted out a little bit. So in the interim that we've had between the end of schematic design and now as we're just kicking off our design development, the next phase of the design of the Community Event Center, and as we were looking at the plaza and that last graphic that Mayor Rob had up to try to figure out all the different program elements that could really start to activate the space and ways that our building can contribute to that outdoor space and try to get people down there and create a destination. We felt like there was a way that we could relook at this particular corner and see if we could still keep those functional elements that are absolutely needed, but push them back so that we could regain some of that valuable real estate along Bay Street. So if you go to the next sheet, we'll go this one quick. This area there on the left with the red box is really the area of change. And essentially what we're proposing to do is to reconfigure the building slightly with the KRL space and some of the other elements that are happening in this back area, as well as that service access, but to carve out a space for a potential retail or office space that could be located right there along the street frontage. We think we can get about 1,400 square feet out of that space. And it would also be a potential revenue stream for the Community Event Center, you know, outside of the tenants, the KRL, and the event space. So potential kind of third party who could occupy part of the building. So if we go to the next slide, this shows you a comparison side by side. The left-hand side is where we were at the end of schematic design, and then the right-hand side is what we're proposing in terms of change. So again, this is very early. You know, we had this idea. We've been talking to all the stakeholders on the project, and we'll need to work through kind of the fine details of this with KRL and our hospitality consultant and make sure kind of all those functional pieces are still there. But essentially, what we've done is kind of pushed the service elevator out of that back corner as well as the stairway, which allows us to create this tenant space. The areas in yellow are added square footage, so we are increasing the area a little bit to the building. Essentially, the area on the top in yellow, we have the second story cantilevering out in the original design, so we're just going to kind of capture that space on the ground level. And then a little bit more on the Bay Street side, again in the yellow. So about 1,000 square feet added to this level, but we think that the potential cost increase with that could be offset by, you know, creating this new revenue stream for the tenant space. And just to kind of fully paint the picture, this is the schematic design plan of the second level. So let's go to the next sheet. So again, kind of looking at this area, and I'll have you go to the next sheet one more because it shows the side-by-side of the two plans. So minimal added area on this upper floor. I do want to note that in doing this, we did substantially increase the storage space that would support the events, which I think is something that we always find is never properly accounted for, and certainly easy to build it in now and not find out we don't have enough space later for those storage elements. So this is kind of the early direction that we're looking to head in terms of creating that opportunity to activate the street front. And if you can go to the next slide, we'll just kind of give you a little overview of what this could look like. So this is the rendering that we completed schematic design with. So the area in question is right there under the word community, kind of that solid wood area right there. So if we go to the next slide, there's a very rudimentary kind of sketch of what that could look like. Basically taking that solid piece, going to more transparency. This could be all glass. This is kind of suggested in this rendering, or it could be some combination of kind of solid and glass. We haven't kind of gone through that full design exploration yet, but I think something simple, lots of transparency, really providing an opportunity to start to activate that street frontage, and then start that experience that we're looking for with Orchard Street, starting that as early as we can so that it draws people in, people can circulate around the building, and then on the other side, if you're coming along the waterfront trail, giving you kind of something that you could end at as you wrap around the building. So then we just have a couple of these renderings which were just included for reference. No changes proposed on, this is the main entry to the Community Event Center off of the Orchard Plaza, although I know the name is going to be kind of getting changed there, where it says Event Center. We'll be kind of having a different name there.
And I can speak to that. We're very enamored with the community that turns into unity on the one corner. We think that's very powerful, but Event Center just doesn't feel that so we did it's about a month and a half with a community survey, got about 50 results. I would say 2/3 of them weren't appropriate, but we did have some good material. We landed on, because we're changing the name to the Port Orchard Community Event Center, the council liked the idea of putting Port Orchard on the corner of it. So you see from the street, you'll see Unity and Port. From this angle, you'll see Port Orchard, and from the other angle, you'll see Community. So we're pretty happy with the Event Center goes away, and it says Port and then Orchard wrapping the building.
And it looks like we can actually fit Port on the one side instead of having to turn the corner there. And this is just a rendering of the waterward side of the Community Event Center. The original concept was to connect people to the waterfront. So that was kind of why in the original design, most of the glass, most of the transparency was kind of focused both towards the Orchard Plaza and out towards the waterfront. But we think that this proposed change here brings some of that transparency back to the street frontage, so you get a little bit of that kind of street activation happening as well. So that is the update that we had for you today. Thank you.
I might just pop on and say I love the updates. I love the glass and the light in the update on the lower level out front. I think it will help keeping it bright on the street. It will discourage vagrancy, and I'm super excited about this project, not only because it's from the district that I represent, but also I have a business on Bay Street, and what a great entry to Bay Street. So I like it. Keep up the good work.
We're excited about the progress. I mean, we're moving ahead. We authorized the contract for the next phase of the design, and I think you guys are amending the ILA later this evening. So greatly appreciate your partnership with us, and I'm just happy to share as I hear as I do everywhere in our community. We've got, if you've been to Port Orchard, we've got a big 4x8 sign showing the community center. Says coming soon down on the Kitsap property. So we're very proud of it.
Well, thanks to both of you.
Use the microphone.
I'm sorry. Yep. I know better.
Thanks to both of you. A good update. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Walt, I was just going to echo basically what John said. You know, I really do love the community broken up where you do see unity too for, for this building. And Port Orchard makes a whole lot more sense to me than Event Center, and does get at exactly what you described of, it's something that's welcoming, it's something that's ours, rather than something that feels, I think, maybe a little bit more stifling or cold or, disconnected from us.
Thank you, Darren. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have agenda item number 5, report to the board from Visit Kitsap Peninsula, and I think that is Beth, right?
That's correct. Good evening.
Yep.
Thank you, Russ, for being in the slide processor this evening. I want to thank the Kpfd board and staff for the opportunity to present our report to you this evening. I am Beth Javins. I am the director for Visit Kitsap. And tonight, Visit Kitsap would like to provide an introduction on our organization for those members in the audience or anyone who may not be as familiar with our organization or its activities. And we want to attempt to address any concerns from the Kpfd staff and board members regarding our recent marketing activities on behalf of Kpfd, and also provide information that's relevant to the required reporting process. Russ, if you would forward a few slides, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So Visit Kitsap is 40 years old. We've been around since the 80s, and we are the official destination marketing organization for Kitsap County. We are the steward of the Kitsap Peninsula National Water Trail System. We are an anchor organization for the Maritime Washington National Heritage Area, which is stewarded by the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. And we are also the pending future home of the Kitsap Film Office. We contract with the cities of Paulsboro, Port Orchard, Bremerton, and Bainbridge Island for tourism-specific promotion and activities. We prepared a very brief report, very visually dynamic report with information for you. As we understand, this meets the requirements according to the contractual arrangements signed by both parties. This includes former staff, current board members for both organizations. So it's come to our recent attention that Kpfd has concerns that may dictate a different course of action regarding the marketing contract for its organization. Traditionally, this agreement has covered marketing activities that included the promotion of the Kitsap Conference Center, the Kitsap Fairgrounds, Port Gamble Heritage Park, so meetings, events, weddings, and recreation and activities for those 3 projects. And we have some data, it's a little bit further down in the presentation that we'd like to highlight for you in light of the previous presentation on the visitation to Port Orchard and other communities and other areas in which you have investments. So we have data from Visit Kitsap and Datafy are proprietary. It's a proprietary contract, so if you'd like to use that in the future for your use, we would appreciate a credit for that. So the data that we have is on all of the facilities that you and recreation areas that you have an investment in. That includes the conference center, that includes the fairgrounds, the Port Gamble Heritage Park. It also includes the Paulsboro Recreation Center and the South Kitsap Community Event Center, soon to be Port Orchard Event Center. And the data that we have collected for the last 3 years suggests that the investments that KPFD is making in these projects they're all going to provide significant enhancements to the communities that they're serving and the residents and the visitors that will be served by those facilities. In addition to that, we also can provide and was conveyed late last year, the ad equivalency in public relations values in press and media garnered on KPFD projects mentioned in broadcast media and print media and social media. We also created a press release for KPFD, but it was not released per KPFD staff instructions. We did have a scope of work prepared for 2022. It was submitted in December. However, it was not included in the December or the January meeting agendas because we were out of town. And we want you to know that we fully intended to seek new ideas in anticipation of hiring a new marketing and public relations director on our staff in January so that we could restructure the marketing and promotional activities to meet the KPFD needs, bring it into industry best practices for Visit Kitsap. And we did meet internally with the KPFD staff on suggestions for creating specific marketing and public. But again, these were not formally translated to the board in writing, only the scope of work presented in 2021 to KPFD staff. So I think we can probably move through some of the slides. There are a number of them that account for our promotional activities, whether it's the Kitsap Conference Center, promoting the weddings, going to the Seattle Wedding Show, promoting weddings, also attending the Northwest Event Show, promoting the facilities. And in conclusion, with new leadership and management in place for both organizations, we certainly understand that we may want to revisit the contracts for mutually beneficial arrangement. With that in mind, we hope that you will enjoy this presentation and give you a glimpse into the activities we've been working on. We've presented these activities and would ask that the KPFD honor all current arrangements, including the marketing and the lease agreements, which I'm sure you'll be taking up later in the meeting. We do regret that this was not brought to our attention sooner, where we as professionals in public relations and marketing would have welcomed the opportunity to try to mitigate any sort of negative feeling or discourse. But we want to, again, thank the KPFD for the support and giving us the support and the time to speak this evening. So thank you.
So I think, Beth, you've got some very attractive slides, but our understanding of what it is that Visit Kitsap Peninsula is doing for us month to month to month. Can you kind of summarize that a little bit more? I mean, I'm not sure I understood, the data you had on the slides.
Sure. I think that we have, when we first obtained the data, we thought that it would be very helpful in not just projects that KPFD has invested in so far, but perhaps any projects that you might be considering, wanting to sort of know the traffic patterns, who's coming in from what part of the state to visit these areas, or if they are local, what the amount of traffic would be, just to inform policy, if that's of interest to you. We have new tools in place where we can put out new press releases and new marketing campaigns, and then read about those and know exactly how many people are being reached by that public relations effort, knowing how many eyeballs are on that article or in a broadcast media piece, and be able to give that to the KPFD so that you can see more of your public relations and more of the efforts out in public. We did discuss potentially, I think, there was a rebranding effort that maybe Kitsap Public Facilities District wanted to go through. As someone who's been on board for a year, I can speak to the scope of work that I inherited and to the last 3 months of what our plans were to try and work with the Kpfd in a different way than what had been done in the past. The emphasis was, as I understand it, to promote the facilities that were already built, that were already in play, meaning going out and creating advertising, participating and investing money in being in those buildings and promoting those buildings for meetings and events, which are, can be expensive propositions in the trade show world. We've been to the Kitsap Conference Center twice this year for military appreciation and the Kitsap Wedding Show. As I said, we were at the Seattle Wedding Show promoting the venues, and also at the Northwest Event Show promoting the venues in Seattle. So that's a time that we invest in promoting the organization as well as the buildings. And now that you have new projects, certainly the Port Gamble Heritage Park is very much in line with what we do as promoters for tourism, as it's recreation based. There are many events that are going to be new, and also other events that are going to be resurrected that are going to be taking place at that park. And so we'll be watching the visitation very closely. It would suggest maybe specific amenities surrounding the area that might be necessary, but we can tell exactly, based on cell phone and geolocation data, where people are visiting from and how far. And that is definitely something that we report on to the state of Washington. And I think if you're interested in any other data with regard to the facilities, the potential projects, that would be helpful. And so I think that pretty much sums up what our intentions were. Of course, it's a two-way street, so we will need to hear from you in terms of what you were looking to do. Again, we brought on a new staff member in January with a very strong public relations and marketing background who has a very good sense of branding and marketing. So that was always consideration. But again, as I mentioned in the report, not formally translated to the board, which it should have been.
Beth, I think one of the concerns the directors have is that while some of maybe the facilities or some of the projects that have been that we've promoted have been advertised by you guys, when people hear Kitsap Public Facility District, they think we're the waste management group or are in charge of the roads or something. And I guess I've only been on since the summer, and I think there's I mentioned, I'm on this, and people are like, what is that? Which I guess my concern is, if the public out there doesn't even know who we are or what we're doing, it's fine to promote the projects, but if they don't even know who we are itself, and I think what we're kind of feeling is that we as the district itself need to have been promoted up to this point, and we kind of thought we were being. And then when we kind of see the presentations like this one, which is saying, we're promoting the projects, that's fine, but you're not promoting the district. And I think that's where we're having a problem on our end in terms of what are we actually getting for our money in terms of paying Visit Kitsap.
And I might...
Oh, go ahead.
Beth, I was just going to try and give some color because I'm along the same lines as Phil when we talk about the investment that we made, right? So I believe, and this is all off memory, I think our investment last year was $20,000 or more. I don't remember off the top of my head.
24,000.
24? Thank you, Russ. What specifically did that fund as a representative of our taxpayers, right? We have a responsibility to ensure that we're utilizing those funds to the best of our ability. I I see social media here, right? But I don't know that even if we had, with our 3 facilities that we currently have, that we have what I would consider $24,000 in social media presence, right? So help me understand that as I have conversations in my other roles as the head of the chambers here in Kitsap and working with those, or alongside some of the folks at the conference center and things like that. What specifically did we spend? Let's just talk about last year, not about the future, because we can talk about that in a scope of work for the future. Let's talk about where we spent that money from last year.
Certainly. So as I mentioned, the contract as it was presented and as I inherited, and I think as we tried to sort of evolve the discussion on what would be with the transition between both former staff and the boards to try and figure out what that should look like. I know that there was an emphasis just around the time that I was coming on board on passing off the website, that perhaps, that was a project that the former staff felt that was important for the Public Facilities District to engage in, to have a new identity online. We inherited the contract that specifically stated that we were going to be promoting these facilities for the purpose of meetings, weddings, events, which is consistent with what we would do as a destination marketing organization. That's not to say that we couldn't pivot to help create an identity for Kitsap Public Facilities. My experience in 20 years is in tourism marketing and promotion and development. So we're very excited and eager to see all of these new projects coming online, because these are things that certainly we would continue to promote. But that's what we do as an industry best practice. What was contracted for the year 2021, again, was for promotion of the buildings, and we have done that by social media representation, brochure distribution, website maintenance and website content, social media posts referring to events and potential meetings in those facilities, and that's what we were contracted to do. So I understand your concern. If it was something that I was working with the board or with staff on to address the identity and the branding, I mean, that is certainly things that we can do on the tourism side. If that's not what your interests are, then it clearly has resonated throughout the board with some concern and question, which I appreciate. We can't account for past years of things that maybe people didn't realize they were signed on for. We just want to have a really good two-way communication with the new organization, the organization that has a new beginning a new chapter, as we both are.
Darren or Tom, you have any questions or remarks?
I'll jump in for a second.
I'm sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
I'm going to beat you out, guys. So kind of backing on to John's question about 2021, understand that there was social media and et cetera put out. You mentioned the website. Were you running the web? Was VKP running the website in 2021? Running the PFD website?
We were not running a PFD website. That project, as I understand it, was created and was handed off to a web developer on Bainbridge Island. And I think that VKP helped to set that in motion, but once the project started to evolve, it was handed off to a professional in web development and design.
Oh, okay.
So starting in October, we were not managing the Kpfd website.
But were you managing it prior to October. We're trying to figure out what actually was accomplished in 2021 under the course of those $24,000. So we're kind of looking for a more succinct list. That's why I'm asking about the website. So were you?
Again, I could not answer that question. I do not believe that we were managing the Kpfd website. I only know that there was a project that was to evolve the website so that it was more user-friendly, and that this organization connected the Kpfd, and former staff had connected the Kpfd staff with our web developer.
Okay.
So there was a transaction with them. But as I recall, and I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that we were not running the Kpfd website, although I would be happy to try and find out for you.
No, I'm just trying to get basically a bullet point
Of course.
list of what was accomplished in 21. So that's why I brought the website up, because you had mentioned that. So we'll take that off the table. So what, you said you've been able to get to 4 shows already this year in 3.5 months, which is heavy. That's a lot, I know. Can you fill out the list, maybe 21 a little bit, about beyond the social media, where anything in particular, something that we can actually really understand?
Sure. So I think when I was referring to the website, and I apologize for the confusion, I was talking about promotion of the Kpfd buildings on our Visit Kitsap website, not running the Kpfd website. So apologies for the confusion there. So in both January and February, we attended 3 trade shows. Between them, 2 in the building of the Kitsap Conference Center, or rather the Kitsap Fairgrounds, and one in Seattle, or 2 in Seattle. So 4 total in the building, physically actively promoting activities in the building, and then outside of Kitsap County in the Seattle area for recognition and promotion of the building there. So there's 4 events in 2 months. And yes, it is, it's staff time for sure, travel time, taking us away from our families, all fine. That's what we're in the business of hospitality and tourism to do, is create recognition for Kitsap County and for the venues and facilities within. If you would like for us to put together a very specific list of how many hours were dedicated to these projects, I will do my utmost to try and get that. I will also say that we have had transition in our office, meaning we previously contracted for graphic design and social media, and those individuals have been retired. They've retired or they have moved, which is why we brought someone on a permanent basis inside the office, so that we had what I feel is a better accountability of where we invest our time and resources, and for us to be able to be in the community more often, and really working with those partners in a more, I think, more consistent basis, which you don't really get when you have a lot of contractors. So again, I'm happy to, do some research on the exact amount of hours, the number of posts for each building. I'm fairly confident that we can provide that, because we take great pride in accountability and accounting for the hours, the posts. As I said, we contract with many communities, and reporting is something that we do often, and as you would come to expect from us. And, I will take responsibility for not being able to translate the intentions of our organization to help facilitate your goals and objectives and your vision for the organization that is Kpfd, rather than the activities or the building.
Beth, am I correct that we have not agreed on a scope of work yet for calendar year 2022?
A scope of work was submitted to staff in December, and was written on December 7th. It was submitted on December 10th, but it was not part of the agenda in January, or rather in December or January. So that scope of work apparently is in, I'll say it's in limbo. We haven't not promoted the things that we proposed that we would do, but the scope of work was based on previous contracts, and knowing what we know, that would not have been, I think,
we still have
the route that either organization would take.
We still have the opportunity to amend that scope of work if we want to put more emphasis on promotion of the district itself rather than district financed facilities from the past. We will have an opportunity to do that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We're very capable of being able to come up with a engagement plan and work with you as you want to form a new identity for the district and recognition for the district, if that's what you choose.
Well, Russ, I think we'd like to work on that so that, we get more promotion of the PFD rather than just the PFD facilities. Is that?
Yep, I agree, and I've talked to the marketing director for VKP about some ideas that I've got and what I'd like to see.
And I personally would like to see that you said you could put together an hour, estimated hour summary of how much you spent in 2021 on these various things. I would like to see that.
Yeah, I think
We'll do our utmost.
I think we would want to, I would like, before we move forward with this, to see a very different scope of work so we have an idea of what's happening on any of this stuff. We do have those projects. The other ones we don't really have started yet. Should we be talking about them? If we're only discussing 3 projects here, what's the amount of time we'd be putting in on that? Obviously, the trade shows are big for hotels, et cetera, way more than PFD. It's servicing a lot more businesses than just PFD products. So, yeah, I'd like to talk a lot more about what we'd show in the scope.
Okay.
So.
You take that on, Russ?
I will. I think it's twofold. I think number one is help in promoting ourselves as a district, which we've talked about, and if that means rebranding, what does that look like, and what's the cost to do that? But then number two, once we've done that and we've re-identified ourselves and we've made it known, then how is it that when they're doing trade shows or whatever, they are promoting the PFD and the projects that are related to the PFD? And so some of my concern is that I haven't seen any promotion of our projects or PFD, and especially in January and February. And the argument is that the contract's been in limbo, but we still paid for January and February and never received an itemized invoices to the services that were directed towards promoting the Kitsap Public Facilities District or its projects.
Yeah, and did I hear in there that 2 of those promotions were at the fairgrounds? Did I hear that right?
I think so.
Okay.
You did. We attended the Kitsap Wedding Show and the Military Appreciation Day. As far as the invoicing is concerned, and I sort of see maybe where this might also be an improved invoicing situation. The contract, as I understand it, and have traditionally been provided for, was a monthly billing with a quarterly report. We certainly, I think, post-pandemic would be able to, entertain moving that monthly invoicing and billing to a quarterly invoicing. But I understand that the general concern is knowing exactly what you are receiving for the funding. And I think what we would probably want to sit down with staff on Kpfd would be exactly what it is that you're looking for from us. Would you like an hourly account of the work, similar to like an advertising agency or attorney, where we're really accounting for every quarter hour or every hour that we're spending on Kitsap Public Facilities District, like a marketing agency would. We keep track of other types of data for our other partners. That means hotel rooms, hotel occupancy, revenue, demographics, spending, traffic over 50 miles, 1 to 3,000 miles of visitation. I mean, there's a number of ways that we can, I think, accomplish the things that you're asking us to do.
And one last follow-up question around that. Back to the two events at the fairgrounds. Does Visit Kitsap contract with Kitsap County to promote the fairgrounds as well? Or just with the PFD? I'm trying to understand the strategy behind promoting the fairgrounds when somebody's already at the fairgrounds, rather than spending that money to bring in business that wasn't already visiting that particular property.
I think that's a fair question. Again, I did not create the original contract. I inherited that contract, so I abided by what's in the contract. That said, yes, I think we would certainly be promoting any events, venues, parks, recreation, anything that is, any businesses. We have over 500 businesses or more on our website. Many, many more public parks, ports. By the very nature of the Kitsap Peninsula water trails, there's 147 parks there, and information on amenities and things like that. So in the larger scope, yes, those things would be considered something that we would promote as a general marketing practice for Kitsap County. If you would like for us to take those off the table for 2021 or to early 2022 and just focus on the two events that we did in Seattle to promote Kitsap and the facilities, I mean, we're certainly happy to, I've never really claimed to use that as a reason in terms of what we're doing, but this is the contract that was presented.
Okay, thank you, Beth. I think we're going to bring this discussion to a close. We appreciate it. I think we're going to let you and Russ get together and spend some time working on a broader scope of work in accordance with the discussion we've had here this evening, and also a more detailed accounting of time and effort on the part of you and your staff, specifically on behalf of the PFD. Final comments?
Well, thank you, and we look forward to that conversation, and we're happy to try and help evolve that brand for you. So thank you for having us today.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
If I could just add one thing before we move on. I think Beth's overview of the scope of work is accurate, and what I recollect we hired them for was to promote really just the three facilities, not adding in any of these new ones. I guess all I would like to see, Beth, is, I guess she's gone, but I would like to see examples of the metrics that you described. Just maybe one case study, whether it's the conference center or the fairgrounds, doesn't matter to me. But that would be enough fuel for me to say, all right, this is working, and this relationship, could have merit, and we'd want to continue. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Darren, you have anything?
I think everything has been covered. I think just having the reporting of what has actually been done to understand the valuation of how that connects to 24,000 is the main question.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to new business. Item number 6A, the sublease agreement between the Kpfd and the Kitsap Peninsula Visitor and Convention Bureau. Russ, is this the rental agreement for office space?
So the lease expires, the overall main lease expires for Visit Kitsap Peninsula at the end of August. We do not have a sublease agreement in place signed. The last sublease agreement that was signed and in place was in 2020. So there was not anyone that was put in place in 2021 or 2022. The original lease, sublease contract that was written with Visit Kitsap was in 2017. It said it was just for a 1 year and every year after that, it's supposed to, you rewrite the sublease agreement with Visit Kitsap. And so that wasn't done in 2021, and it has not been done in 2022. Now, that said, we've been paying a sublease agreement of $1,250, which was in accordance with the rated schedule over a 5-year period of time. We've let Visit Kitsap know that our plan is to leave the spot either before August 30th or by August 31st, or by August 31st. So with that, I have been working with a property manager, and then I've also spoken with a property manager that oversees lease space at the mall too, for some options for us to take a look at. So Visit Kitsap has also indicated to me that they are also leaving the space, vacating the space at the end of August as well. So it's not it's not something that we're going to be looking to stay at the current location. We do not want to we don't need the entire space. If Visit Kitsap were to leave it, we don't need the entire space. Jason Parker from Parker Financial upstairs has indicated that he'd like to take the space back over for his own office space at the end of August. So right now I'm actively pursuing, trying to find a new place for us to go to. I want to provide 2 or 3 options, if I can, to the board before we make the decision on where it is that we're going to go. And there'll be some costs associated with that as well.
What's the action needed tonight on 6A?
There's no action tonight.
It's not worthwhile trying to extend the lease just until August if they're moving and we're moving.
Right. It's just information. I just want to let you all know about it. And then it will go into the ongoing business or good of the order as we continue to progress.
So I missed the decision that we made to vacate the space. Are we doing that simply because Visit Kitsap Peninsula is getting ready to pull the plug in August, and we don't need any more than what we got?
Well, it's kind of twofold. One of the concerns is that the space right now really doesn't do us very much good with regard to exposure. So we're talking about exposure, but there's no sign on the outside of the building that says that that's where we're at. So we also feel like it's a better space we can find a better location where we can be more visible. Our sign can be outdoors where people can see it. And if we go into rebranding and so forth, now's the right time to be able to move and be able to rebrand and show what that's going to look like at our new location. So it's just not the ideal location regardless.
Okay. Thanks, Russ. Comments? Okay. Next item of new business, update on the North Kitsap Recreation and Events Center. Are you doing that, Russ?
Myself and Darren, did you want to start off or do you want to chime in after me?
I can start it off and you can chime in. Russ and I met with Superintendent Evans and with their financial officer, Jason Rhodes, and just wanted to reconnect on the North Kitsap Rec Center and how things were going. Should we, wrap it up at this point? Should we hold steady? Is there anything that they want to do? Just kind of trying to explore with them what's the relationship and what would they like to see happen. I think in summary, their point of view is that they would like to keep it open. There is nothing that they would like to do with the current master plan right now, but not that they wouldn't want to do something in the future. They wanted us to know that the first field has already been returfed and the second field will be done this summer. And so they want to make sure that we know that they're keeping good on their promise to do the updates to the project. So I think those are the highlights of the meeting, and add anything in, Russ, that you think should be added too.
No, I think you captured it right there. I really don't have anything else to add to it.
Okay, so actually, we're just going to kind of admire the North Kitsap Recreation and Events Center for the foreseeable future until something changes.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the first 3 projects, where we've completed the different pieces of them. And, there are more pieces to that project that we could do. But the school district is not in a position where they would want to now. So they would like to keep it the way it is.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Comments?
So does that mean we still have the same ILA as years back?
Good question. Are you on, Brian?
I am on, yes. And our
Did you get
last
Darren's
completed ILA is from 2007.
Do we need to do anything about that, or is it good the way it is?
It's good the way it is. Some of you who've been on the board longer may remember around 2013 or 2014, we looked at doing some revision to it, and basically nothing happened more from, I would say, in action or lack of interest by the school district than anyone else. But anyway, no, it's, I think Russ's point was well taken. The early 3 ILAs were kind of initial project driven, and after that, really not much happened, and doesn't need to happen until there's a change in a proposal for a new facility.
So is the PFD committed on funds in any way under the existing ILA? Nothing? So
No, whatever was agreed to and funded back in 2005, 2006, and 2007 has all been done.
okay, so there's nothing open under the ILA that if the school district decided to move ahead that we might be surprised?
We don't owe them any money
Okay.
if they do something else.
Okay.
Unless they come back
Correct.
to us.
And ask again as a new ask. Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Let's move on to 6C. That's the proposed ILA amendment for the Community Events Center in Port Orchard. Russ, I think that involves the name change that the mayor mentioned.
Correct.
And a reallocation of some money within the current $12 million authorized amount.
Correct. So there's really 3 things to this, and Brian, if you'll please chime in as necessary. The first was the name change from South Kitsap Community Event Center to the Port Orchard Community Event Center. The second part was to adjust tasks 4 and 5. Task 4 be adjusted to $660,000, and task 5 be adjusted to $770,000. I don't have it in front of me. If you could look at the ILA and the draft, I believe it's 660 in task 4 and 770 in task 5. Is that accurate, Director Morrissey?
So task force currently shows 620 on the one I have in front of me.
So the adjustment would go to 660. And then where is it at task 5?
Shows 770.
770. Okay, that's accurate. So what I had done when I drafted when I made the change to the ILA was I kept task 8 at the remaining balance, task 7/8 at the remaining balance, so it would still not exceed the $12 million. Mayor Patonsu had asked if they actually wanted the additional $289,500, which is the additional ask in task 4 and 5, to be part of the overall expenditure. So they were asking for task 7 and 8 to be $12,289,500. So Mr. Lawler and I talked about this. We had a phone conversation about it also with Chairman Jagodinski, and we talked about can they do that? Can we make a change to an ILA bottom line like that? So, Mr. Lawler, if you wouldn't mind, if you'd please chime in, and then Chairman, if you could chime in behind him as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, board members, you may recall over the last several years since these new ILAs went into effect around 2019, each of the project jurisdictions has come back to the board at least once to say we want to move some things around either on our schedule of tasks, or we want to reallocate dollars from this task to that task, keeping the total dollars the same. And so that part of what Port Orchard had asked for in this ILA amendment is consistent with what the board has been doing for all of the partners on the premise that they're trying to treat them all the same. So the new wrinkle here, and it's not really a legal issue, I think it's just more of a policy issue that we should flag to the board, is Port Orchard is saying, and in addition to moving these tasks around, we would like some new funds. I flagged that to Russ and Darren, saying this just changes the pattern of what the board's been doing. So be aware of that. We want to educate you on that and have you, consider the implications of that. Again, the board has tried to treat all of the what we call the partners the same. So if the sense of the board is to grant more money to Port Orchard, I think you should anticipate that the other two partners would feel entitled to come and ask for the same treatment or consideration. So that's, Russ, do you want to add to that at all?
Thank you, Mr. Lawler. I believe that if we were to, if the board were to consider the name change and then change the amounts of tasks 4 and 5 that they had asked for, but keep task 7 at $12 million, so not an additional increase, that would address any concerns that Mr. Lawler had. Again, that's a board decision, but that would be my recommendation.
Well, my opinion is we shouldn't start raising the bottom line for Orchard or indeed any of the other partners without some considered discussion, because, one will lead to the next to the next. So.
I have 2 cents on this one. Can't fault the mayor for asking for a little more money. The worst we can say is no, right? So, I can very much understand where he's coming from with this project. 2, I'm always going to advocate for more money for the community of which I live and work. That's my job. That's why I was put on this board. And I just want to make sure that there was color around the name change. If there was any consternation around that, that I know that the multiple stakeholders in the area, including the county and the port, were going to be part of this process when it was first brought up. Both the port and the county had other interests with the Kpfd, and so have kind of stayed in that lane. So I'm all for the name change, 1. 2, I'm all for the reallocation of the monies within the scope at tasks 4 and 5. I would also like to say that that's a 2.3% increase, and I would not be opposed to a 2.3% increase in the existing ILAs as they stand with the other 2 projects. That being said, I know that that means a lot less to the other 2 projects than it does to Port Orchard, as they are the only one to have the full ask, and I believe the other 2 are still both under $1 million, so it would not be a big hit to the Kpfd. My 2 cents.
Oh, thank you. Either of our Zoomers, Tom or Darren, comments?
I too love the name change. I think it's great, both in the naming of it, but on the building too, which I had mentioned earlier. Moving the money from one line item to another. Hey, we're just trying to help the project, go forward. So that's great. The third of increasing the money now is the key for me of now. I would say let's get to 12 million expended first and then come back and say we need another $289,000. So let's get to the bottom line first. And then, at that point in the future, is that maybe 4? Is that 5 years from now? Come back and say we needed another 300,000 to complete the project. And we have that conversation then, because at this point, it does become something of moving more money to this project and potentially money away from other projects that we've committed to.
I would also I'd echo what people have said about issues 1 and 2 with the name change and the reallocation. I think on the third issue, it is a deeper policy issue that we need to discuss. I think I raised this at the last meeting about, with inflation, interest rates going up, that sort of thing. If we start getting asked for increases, what's our policy, what's our plan, and what's our budget? So I think this is going to be the first ask of several, and maybe even the first ask by Port Orchard of several by Port Orchard. I don't know. So I think before going down that path, we need to kind of have a big sit down and discuss in detail what our policy is, what we want it to be, and looking to the future.
That's a good point, Phil. I might amend my previous comments earlier that we do need to have something, and maybe something that should be added to a retreat conversation around some of our thoughts around that long term, because this won't be the last time. And there are multiple projects and where they lie. So, I think that's a bigger discussion as we move forward, because there will be more money too, right? I think we'll have additional tax revenues as people spend more money in our county.
Yeah, I think our monthly revenues, over the past year and a half or so have been well ahead of the more conservative estimates that we had when we first began ranking the projects. Okay, I would entertain a motion then from someone about to approve the requested name change and to approve the requested reallocation of funds within the current ILA.
Do we need one yet, or do we need it written? I guess that's maybe a Brian. Do we need to actually have the ILA in front of us, or can we make that motion now, Brian?
You can make the motion now. The ILA has been reviewed by both sides, I believe. And I've seen it, Russ has seen it. And I think the way Russ and I left it was we kept the total sum at $12 million. So your motion is consistent with the current form of the ILA.
Perfect.
All we need to do is move to approve the existing ILA then, is that correct? Or the proposed ILA?
Yes.
As written. Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the amended ILA as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Is there any further discussion on the revised ILA? Tom or Darren? Hearing none, I call for a vote.
Hey, Walt.
Yes.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So is this saying that we would add the 289,000? I want to be clear on that.
No, it does not include any increase to the $12 million bottom line. It's only the name change and the reallocation within the existing funding.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're now down to number 7 on the agenda, the financial reports. Russ, you have a comment on financial report, the rebate summary report for the month, or the facilities tracking report?
I do. First, we'll go over the financial reports. And Ms. Veach, I've appointed you as a panelist, so please chime in as you need to. So our statement of financials for March, for the end of March. Now this is showing our three separate funds, or our three separate accounts, let's say. So 286 is our debt service. That's what it is that we're paying back on those bonds. 968 is our operating expenses, and 977 is what we currently have in funds available for the projects themselves. And so you can see that our total assets to date are $4,371,163 in our 286, or our debt service, and $29,444.27. That was our operating expenses in the month of March. And as of the end of March, we have $3 million, just over $3 million available to us in funds. And we're looking at our net incomes and our net equity and our liabilities, and they zero out. Next is our statement of financial review of expense by fund. And again, this is our expenses, not our incomes, but just our expenses. In 286, year to date, we paid $203,805. In the 968 fund, our net that was our net income, was $203,805 in the 286, the debt service. Net income of $11,379 end of year to date in the 968 fund, and then $509,860 in the 977 fund. And hang on one second. I'm bringing Miss Veach in. There, Ms. Veach, you should be a panelist now. So anytime you want to chime in, please do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't quite sure how to get in on that. Yeah, what you were saying is exactly right. That's where we are as of this point in time. And as we've mentioned in other meetings, we're changing the way that we are tracking some of this information because of the new system that we have through the county for tracking everything. There are some things that I have some questions on from the reports to make sure that we're tracking properly. But other than that, there aren't any big surprises. There weren't any big changes. There's been very little activity actually in the books for the last month. And so nothing has significantly changed from last month. And we have, I believe, purchased the new online QuickBooks so that we can start tracking things a little bit more intricately ourselves instead of just going from the reports that we receive from the county, which are great for what they need to do, but are a little bit, they're less than what we need for managing ourselves. So this is the new program that they started in, I believe, was October. So anyway, we're looking forward to it, and I don't know what else I can contribute, Russ. Thank you for doing the part you did.
Certainly. And I want to add to yes, we have purchased QuickBooks Online. And so now the next task for Ms. Veach and I is to make sure we have all of our figures accurate. What we want to do is we want to start May 1, and then I will start inputting every expense that we have. We'll bounce that off of the figures that she's got. When we have our debt service payment that goes out, make sure that's exact with what she's got. And then what we have remaining in the 977 fund. And then that way we've just got one more check and balance. I know there was some concern at our last board meeting. Would that be adding too much to my plate, or are we asking something that the accountant would be doing? I actually think that it's a check and balance for us, and I would much rather do it that way, because I can tell you that, like I've expressed in the past, it's been a struggle sometimes to go to the county and find out exactly what do we have in the bank. And so having QuickBooks Online and having that quick look, so I can have it, I can look at it immediately, whether we need to do a cash transmittal, say from 977 to our expense account before I go to pay the bills. Something as simple as that is going to help me quite a bit. So that's in place now. Susan and I will start inputting that information in May.
I would like to comment on that part as well, in the fact that you are already generating all of these payments and you're sending in the vouchers and you're already working with them. And I think an integration between the two projects would actually decrease the amount of work that you do hunting down reports for me at the end of each month. That it will be adding in anything that I can do out of that process after we make sure that it's right. I'll make sure that, I'm available for anything that we need to do, but I believe it will significantly decrease the cost of the accounting for right now. It'll get it back into a reasonable amount.
Yeah, it is a cost-saving measure as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any comment on the rebate report? Another, good year-over-year increase.
Right. Let me get to that again. Why is that not showing up here? I apologize. I don't have it up here. I don't know why it's not part of this packet. It may have been part of your packet, but yes, let me say on our rebate, if you have what I had sent out previously to your packet, and again, I apologize that it's not showing up here, but on our rebate summary report, we are still up from where we were at the same time this last month. We had a net gain at the end of this month, so we're still continuing to see that trend of month over month and year over year increasing. Now, you'll see that we did have a slight or quite a bit of decrease, 197,000 to 162,000, I believe, from February to March. But that would be the indication. March is the indication of the spending that occurred and the tax rebate that occurred in January. So I think that as the weather starts warming up, that will start to climb up a little bit more for us. So, and in talking with our financial advisors and the projections that they see us continuing on this upward trend for the near future.
And you look back historically, every single year that we have on here from February to March is a drop.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then on the facilities tracking report, again, I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not in this part of this presentation here. Nothing has changed on that from the last month. I said that we were going to bring forward the Port of Bremerton, Circuit of the Northwest invoice request, but we are going to table that. I talked with Mr. Thompson today over the phone, and I also had an email exchange with Mr. Salisbury from the Port of Bremerton, and we're going to get together and talk about that particular invoice and invoices going forward with the port. So that's why it was pulled out of the consent agenda. Nothing else changed on the facilities tracking report.
Any questions for Russ on that from anyone? All right, moving on to number 8, bond refinancing update.
So I see that Mr. Greenow is on with us, and I believe I do not see Northwest advisors on, but that's okay. So, Mr. Greenow, please chime in wherever you see fit. Our financial advisors reached out to KeyBank and to talk to them. Well, let me go back. When we met with the county commissioners on March the 30th, and the county treasurer was with us there as well, she said that the county treasurer said that she was more than willing to allow that our financial advisors to contact KeyBank. And so financial advisors did do that to find out what it would look like with regard to extending the bond to 2041. So they are now waiting to get a response back from the bank, because the bank said they had a little bit of work to do on that. And then once they got that back, then they were going to let me know, and then we would reach out to Treasurer Green again and set up another meeting to talk with her and let her know what we have found out. So right now, there's really nothing to report with regard to where we're at to 2041 on bonds. What I can say, though, is that if the county agrees to extend that, that's really great for us, very positive for us, because we can continue to collect those sales tax rebates till 2041. If not, we're working ourselves to be in a position where we can do that ourselves. Obviously, the county has a really strong rating, and we want to be able to continue to use them. And I believe our relationship with the county is very strong. So I think that we're going to be able to make that happen, stretching out to 2041 through the county, but we won't know more until after the conversation with KeyBank happens with our advisors, and then our advisors then can go back and talk to Treasurer Green. Mr. Green, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's a completely accurate summary. We have had initial negotiations with KeyBank. It looks like they're amenable to this. There's some details to work out. And so once we get their proposal, then we can get back to the board on it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Greeno.
Thank you. Refresh my memory, Russ. We can refinance even a small amount of our existing bonds out to 2041, and that allows us to meet the legal requirements to keep getting the revenues.
To get the sales tax rebate till 2041. That's correct.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
That's correct.
Questions?
No, sir. The only we do have to have the consent of KeyBank to restructure that debt, whether we do it with them or with someone else. And so that's why those are some of the negotiations that we're having.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Greeno. That's correct. And that's part of their response back to us is giving permission to do that. Chairman Jagodinski, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Because you've been part of those conversations as well.
No, I think that, reflects all the information for the update.
Great. Thank you.
John, did you have something?
I would just like to comment again, thanking Russ for putting together that meeting. I happened to be in attendance with Darren and Pat and the team from the county. I would concur that we have a great relationship with the county, only furthered by the efforts of Russ to coordinate all this. So thank you for doing that, Russ, and cultivating a great relationship. It makes it easier for us to do our work.
Absolutely.
Okay, finishing up, 8B, you want to remind us of the retreat schedule?
Yeah, just a reminder, Wednesday, May the 11th, we will be from 10:30 to 12:30, so we have a real small window of time, 2 hours, but I'll be working with Chairman Jagodinski about putting together an agenda for what that's going to look like and what we can get done. That'll be at the Fairway Independent Mortgage conference room, which is upstairs. They are right around the corner from where we're at on Bayshore Drive. I think most of you know where that will be, and we look forward. We really hope that every board member can make it. I've been doing a lot of polling to find out which seemed to work best, and that one seems to work best for all 7 board members. So we're looking forward to that discussion.
Okay. Any other business for the good of the order? Sorry, more business for the good of the order. Anybody? Tom or Darren? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
None here.
Do you have a second?
Second.
And I second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you all.